What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast for another edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Bills post-game show. My biggest takeaways from today's game with the Buffalo Bills. Oh, boy. It's very tough for me to have a post-game show knowing what we will talk about, what I will have to talk about within this show, what I just witnessed in today's Monday evening football game. Another facet of this 2020 season that truly sucks is the fact that COVID has provided these schedule adjustments, if you will, that I personally can't stand. You know, football is meant to be played on Sundays, Sunday nights, Monday nights. This was Monday at 5, and I'm working my day job. I don't get out of my day job until 7, but being that Buffalo is such a football town, I was able to actually watch the majority of the game at the office, and, it was nice. It was nice, but, was it that nice? Was it that nice watching this game? Was it? Was it really? So thank you for tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Bills post-game reaction show. Whether you're tuning in on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Facebook page, Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel. This is also being shared on my personal Facebook, Ryan Thomas, obviously behind the mic for this show. And this episode will be converted to the audio side of things, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts channels, avenues, platforms, whatever you want to call it. As always, as I like to say, fire away some comments. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. Subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on YouTube and like the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Facebook. All access coverage of the Buffalo Bills all season long as well. MMA, Major League Baseball. I got a great guest coming on the show Wednesday to talk about this World Series matchup between the LA Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays. Very much looking forward to seeing this World Series play itself out. But first, we have to address the subject matter at hand, and that is the Buffalo Bills fall to 4-2, losing to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, score 26-17. The storyline for me in this game is the fall of the Buffalo Bills defense. Sean McDermott's defense that was once considered to be the strength of this team. Coming off of this game, I ask myself, what is the strength of this team? I don't know what the strength is of this team. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question. What is the actual strength of this team here and now at 8:29 p.m. on October 19th, 2020? What is the strength of this 2020 Buffalo Bills team? I couldn't tell you. Sure as heck isn't their defense. Sure as heck isn't their offense. And certain facets of their offense, they just can't seem to get things moving. I'll talk about that during this show, obviously. But first, Buffalo allows 245 rushing yards. 161 of those rushing yards were allowed to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is an electrifying running back. We knew going into this matchup, I stated it 3 weeks ago, looking ahead at the schedule, that Buffalo had to play Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in consecutive weeks. Three really legitimate running backs in the National Football League. The Bills did a fantastic job stopping Josh Jacobs, stopping Derrick Henry to an extent. Derrick Henry did have 2 touchdowns in that game, but yards-wise, not really the best day at the office, especially when you look at Derrick Henry and the performance that he put up this past week, a 94-yard touchdown run. Buffalo didn't allow any plays like that to Derrick Henry. But looking at those 3 running backs, I actually thought that Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be the toughest running back to stop due to his low center of gravity, due to the fact that he has great vision, due to the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs have so many weapons on this offense that, dare I say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on paper is looked at as maybe the last resort option for the Chiefs going into this matchup, at least, or looking at previous matchups of the Chiefs against opponent A, B, C, or D. Clyde Edwards-Helaire featured in the offense, no doubt about it, but these last few weeks was not on a hot stretch, was not rattling off 150-yard, 200-yard games. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, though, ran for 161 yards in tonight's action between the Bills and the Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills simply could not stop him. The Buffalo Bills simply could not stop much of anybody on this Kansas City Chiefs offense. And we knew that Travis Kelce was a force. We know Pat Mahomes is a force. We know that a lot of the players on the Chiefs are some of the best players on the face of the earth. Really, whether it's in this league or not, this is a very tough team to look at and say to ourselves, man, how do we stack up against these guys? And, I love this Buffalo Bills team. I really do. I'm not saying that, this is a team that is what I thought they were. They're not. They're actually worse than what I thought they could be. And that is what is extremely disappointing. Granted, the Buffalo Bills are 4-2. Did I think prior to this season that the Buffalo Bills would be going to Super Bowls this year, going to a Super Bowl this year or next year? No, I didn't. I thought they'd be a contender, and they are a contender. But these last two games in particular, against the Tennessee Titans and against the Kansas City Chiefs, are two games in a row in which the Bills have just looked uninspired out there. The Bills have just looked like they can't find their identity. They've lost their identity. They don't know what their identity is on offense, and they don't know what their identity is on defense. And a team without an identity is a team that could be heading down a path that could be consecutive losses upon consecutive losses upon consecutive losses. Thank the Lord Jesus that the Bills play the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets in their next matchup. But at the same time, we want to look at this team as a threat. We want to look at this team as a force to be reckoned with. We don't want to look at this team as, oh, hey, thank God we're playing the Jets this week. We can bounce back, get a win, get up to 5-2. No, we want to look at the Bills and say, hey, they will compete with the Chiefs. They will compete with the Titans. And, there was, for the majority of this game, on the scoreboard at least, it was a close, extremely competitive game. 13-10. That's obviously 13-10 at the half. We're looking at things, pretty positively, saying, "Hey, man, we're playing them really, really tough." I think that this was a game that, to me, it could have got out of hand much sooner than it did. And I'm not providing a glass half full take and saying that. It's just God's honest truth. As I say, 245 rushing yards, that is awful. It is pitiful. But the first half, I'm looking at this game and I'm saying to myself, this team has a shot. They're playing very, very close with the defending world champions. Maybe they'll pull this off. But the moment of the game that really got me heated, the moment of the game that really made me frustrated, moment of the game that made me think to myself, what the hell is going on? A moment in which A.J. Klein makes the biggest play, arguably, of his Buffalo Bills career. He's had a lot of ups, a lot of downs through these first 6 weeks as a member of the Buffalo Bills. He punches the ball out of Travis Kelce's hands. Josh Norman recovers. The Bills get the ball back with 16 seconds left in the second half. The Bills rattle off a play against Stephon Diggs where Diggs was inexplicably left wide open for the Kansas City Chiefs to leave Diggs that wide open. That was a gift from the football gods that put the Buffalo Bills in field goal position. Now, field goal position to any kicker ranges from, better or worse, right? For better or worse, is this field goal position great? Not really. 52 yards, asking a rookie kicker and Tyler Bass to make a 52-yard field goal, putting it like that, you would say, that's going to be tough. But said this once, I'll say it again, Tyler Bass has to make those kicks. Tyler Bass has to be this NFL-ready kicker. That's what the Bills thought he was. That's what the Bills expected him to be. And not only did Tyler Bass miss that kick with 1 tick left on the clock, preventing Buffalo to tie it up 13-13, if there were fans in the stands, if there was You take your grandma to the Buffalo Bills game, you take your aunt, you take your uncle to the Buffalo Bills game, you take your niece, your nephew, your little nephew, he's sitting next to you. He's happy that he's watching the Buffalo Bills game. That little kid, that grandma, that aunt would have got decked with the football. He kicked it into the crowd. It wasn't even close to the net. And I'll say it once, I'll say it again. That can't happen. Missing a field goal is one thing, but on the national stage, you line up as an NFL kicker ready to kick a 52-yard field goal against the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs, and you, dare I say, I think pushing it to the right would be putting it extremely lightly. That football off of Tyler Bass's foot was a magnet to the crowd. It was like he was trying to kick it into the stands and trying to give Casper the Friendly Ghost a souvenir. I mean, wow. That really took the wind out of my sails heading into the second half of a moment where the Bills were gift-wrapped a moment to potentially tie this game. And if Tyler Bass missed that field goal, that's one thing. But as I said, to give Casper the Friendly Ghost a souvenir, that was unbelievable. And it just made me feel as if that moment didn't go even a little bit better, even if Bass missed the kick better than he actually did, even if he still missed it, I would have thought to myself, well, it was close. No, this wasn't even close. It just took the wind completely out of my sails as a spectator and obviously as a fan of this team, hoping that they would find their footing and make something happen to take advantage of an opportunity that they were given. That was the moment of the game that really had me heated. Another moment of the game that had me heated. It's 4th and inches. The Bills got to come up with a big stop. The Chiefs give the ball to Darrell Williams. 4th and inches. He runs it, 11, 12 yards into the end zone untouched. It's no secret now. The book is out on this Buffalo Bills defense. The book is out. And that book is run up the middle, wear down this defensive line that is very thin in terms of the depth that the Bills have at that whole unit. They're very thin, no Star Latuile. Jordan Phillips gone to Arizona. The Bills tried to send a message by healthy scratching Harrison Phillips, healthy scratching Trent Murphy. Was that the best of ideas? I couldn't tell you it was. I couldn't tell you it wasn't. All I know is what I just watched, I hope I never watch again. What I just watched, I can't stomach it against, Perrine and Frank Gore against the New York Jets because, dare I say it, I know that the Jets are really terrible, and I know that they're a team that has really nowhere to go but down. They're not. It can't get much worse for the Jets. But at the same time, I'm not worried that the Bills will lose to the Jets, but I'm thinking like any team could run on this Buffalo Bills defense. Any team at all. I know the Chiefs are one of the better teams in the league, maybe the best team in the league, but the defensive line woes of the Buffalo Bills are apparent. And you're wondering who is going to step up, who is going to make a play, when will someone step up, when will someone make a play, and that is not territory that we want to find ourselves in here. What is it now? Week 7, heading into week 7, trying to get to 5-2, trying to get to where we need to be. And I'm just at a point where I don't know which way is up with this team. And I don't think they even know which way is up with this team. I'm thankful, I'm hopeful that they can figure this out. I really am. But in terms of Sean McDermott being a defensive-minded head coach in this league, being that Sean McDermott has, for all intents and purposes, created a stout Buffalo Bills defense over the course of his last 3 years as the head coach of the Bills, this is like the first time where I've said to myself, Sean McDermott has to truly fix something with this team. Like, there are moments, obviously, where the Bills haven't been great during the McDermott era, but this is what Sean McDermott is responsible for. Leslie Frazier is the defensive coordinator, but this is like Sean McDermott's baby. And the fact that the defense is in such complete and total disarray, And the fact that you know Sean McDermott is pissed off. I mean, I said it, leading up to the Keys to Victory show yesterday. I'm on here yesterday. I'm talking about how, McDermott was wearing it on his face. He was wearing this on his face. He was wearing this frustration, this urgency. It was a sense of urgency that I saw in McDermott's eyes. Just the body language was all right, was all there, but that didn't translate, and it hasn't translated yet. And that in and of itself is worrisome. So I hope that they go back to the drawing board in a big, big way. And going back to the drawing board, a player that is under fire by not just the Buffalo media, but by Buffalo Bills fans is Bills middle linebacker Tremaine Edmunds. More oftentimes than not, Edmunds has found himself behind on a play, overreading a play, not filling the gap, not taking the gap, not taking the sideline, biting on a play action, not covering well. I mean, a key play in this game, Mahomes to Travis Kelce for 6. Travis Kelce just does a little shoulder move, and Tremaine Edmunds was completely out of place, was completely out of whack, was thrown completely out of whack on that move. And granted, it's Travis Kelce on Tremaine Edmunds. Edmunds is a linebacker. Kelce's the tight end. It's a mismatch in a sense that Travis Kelce is a mismatch to a lot of guys in this league. So it's not like Travis Kelce is just some guy, obviously. We know that. But Edmunds has to be better. And this has been a true regression for Tremaine Edmunds in year 3. I have said it before. I've hinted at it before. I don't quite know if Tremaine Edmunds is the middle linebacker that this team really needs him to be. I'm wondering if Edmunds will be better suited in 2021 as an outside linebacker. The long agility style that he has, where he's a long, lanky middle linebacker, I don't know if that fills well in the middle. Do they need someone that's a little bit smaller, someone that can really thump, like a London Fletcher type? Buffalo Bills fans remember that. Like a Darryl Talley type. Buffalo Bills fans remember him too, of course. So Edmunds, I think, has regressed. And we're having a lot of people saying that, Leslie Frazier should be fired. I'm not going to call for any coaches' jobs anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I've done it once. I've done it twice. I've done it a few times. I'm just not going to do that anymore. But one coach that I think deserves to be not under fire, but the microscope needs to be put on this coach is, once again, Brian Daboll. It's no secret. Last season, I was not the biggest fan of Brian Daboll. His situational play calling is average at best, still to this very day. Situational play calling, not play calling in general, but in certain situations, Brian Daboll's play calling is odd. It's ordinary. It doesn't make much sense. And oftentimes, I truly believe that Brian Daboll overthinks things. Now, on one hand, you have that take, and then on another hand, you have the take of guests that I've had on the show. Dan Fates, I agreed with him. This offense has shown moments of success. Heaven's sake, they were 4-0. The offense was firing on all cylinders. Josh Allen was in discussions as being an MVP caliber quarterback. That came and went pretty quick. Now we're here 2 weeks later, 2 losses later, and the Buffalo Bills have not consistently been able to establish a run game thus far. They can't. The run blocking of this Buffalo Bills offensive line has been extremely poor. And you go check the tape, you see Cody Ford not quite the thumping pull guard that you need him to be at right guard. You see a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of miscommunication between the offensive line. Brian Winters, Cody Ford, that right guard spot, not really, right tackle spot, not really fully there. Deion Dawkins, I think, has played fairly well. Mitch Morse has done okay. Not as great as he was last year, but okay. This offensive line just has to get on the same page. I think communication-wise, they're just not there. And to say that heading into week 7, I mean, that falls on the coaching staff. That falls on Brian Daboll, regardless of the positive praise that you guys want to give him. And I agree with the positive praise to an extent. But what happened tonight, I mean, Devin Singletary, I think, is a massive weapon to this offense that is heavily underutilized. Over the course of his career here, he has been heavily underutilized. And we can't have that. If you can't run the ball in this league, if you can't establish a running game, you are treading water in this league. And they haven't been able to do that all season long. I mean, you go game by game, Devin Singletary. What was the stat line for Devin Singletary today? What was it? Wasn't good. I know that. 10 carries for 32 yards. Josh Allen, once again, the leading rusher. And I'm honestly tired of that. I have had back and forth, Twitter discussions with, shout out to Sal Capaccio, big fan of his, and appreciate all the work that he does in the area and everything. But at the same time, just in terms of football X's and O's, the fact that Josh Allen is a leading rusher on this team, that is not what we want. That shouldn't be what we want as a Buffalo Bills fan. That's not what we want. We want to see them win. And Josh Allen being the leading rusher on this team does not lead to a win in this case. It didn't lead to a win in this case. You didn't bring in Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Tyler Kroft, Dawson Knox, reinvigorated, reshaped this entire offensive line, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, for Josh Allen to be a leading rusher, for Josh Allen to get quarterback toss plays, direct toss plays. As soon as the ball snapped in Allen's hands, the line moves to the left, the line moves to the right, and he's running a toss. I hate that. I cringe every time I see it, and I shake my head, and I just grab the bill of my cap, and I'm just like, oh my God, it is so frustrating to me. So beyond frustrating. And you have a weapon, an X factor in Stephon Diggs that you got to get the ball to, obviously. If you can get the ball to him, great. We know what he can do. But you have Stephon Diggs on this offense in this matchup, and I don't think they were able to get him the ball as well as I would have liked. I mean, 6 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Compared to the numbers that he's put up week by week by week this season, that's actually a pretty average day for Stephon Diggs. That's not a typical game for Stephon Diggs. Allowing the rushing yards that they did was inexcusable tonight. Inexcusable. And the fact that Mahomes ended the day with 21 for 26, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. You look at that, if you would have told me that, I would have said maybe they would have won this game. But then you go to the rushing line, the rushing stat line, and you say to yourself, this defense is in real trouble. Real trouble. And I don't know what to make of it. I think that the depth on this defensive line is extremely poor. The guys that are relied upon as starters on this defensive line have not quite shown up. The message has been sent to some of those starters, guys like Trent Murphy, guys like Harrison Phillips. And yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Harrison Phillips in the sense that, Harrison Phillips, he tore his knee last year. What version of Harrison Phillips will we see the rest of the way? I hope that didn't take, his the wind out of his sails, in the sense that he just hasn't been able to find his footing since that injury. But he obviously doesn't look too good. Being a healthy scratch, that's not a good. That's not good for Harrison Phillips. That's not good for the Buffalo Bills. So I think that this team has to really take a long look in the mirror and say, who are we? Are we a team that is going to make the playoffs again and lose in the first round? Are we a team that is actually going to win this AFC East for the first time since 1995, only to lose the first matchup in the playoffs that we earned? Or are we going to win the AFC East for the first time since 1995, beat a team like the Baltimore Ravens, beat a team like the Tennessee Titans, and meet a team in the playoffs like the Kansas City Chiefs? I would hope that they are the latter, but as of now, I'm thinking that they are a team that will find themselves under the same destiny and the same fate of 2019. We make the playoffs. We lose to a team like Houston. We lose to a team like Pittsburgh. We lose to a team, dare I say, Cleveland. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this Buffalo Bills team now. Granted, they are 4-2. I'm not saying that the sky is falling. But after some of their losses previously in the McDermott era, I could then say to myself, well, we know who they are. I don't know who this team is. This isn't the Buffalo Bills team that I saw the first 4 weeks of the season. That's for sure. And I want to get to some of the comments now by some of the viewers and listeners of this show. So let's get to some of the comments. I wanted to try to share this live for the folks in all the Facebook groups. I was having real difficulty with that because Facebook is stupid and annoying. But it is what it is. And we'll see. We'll see what happens as far as getting it on these Facebook groups. But I'm just at a point where literally, like I said, I just don't know what to think of this team. I truly believe that this is one of the weirdest 2-week stretches that I've ever seen from a Buffalo Bills team in quite some time. And that says a lot. That says a ton when we have been privy to a lot of really weird 2-week stretches, albeit during a 17-year playoff drought. So that's how I have it. So, some of the comments here, it's saying that I can't read them. I'm not sure why. William McMillan Jr., what's up, buddy? He says 3 passes to start the game was a big mistake. Still a ways to go. And I agree, buddy. I agree with you. The fact that they just can't come out and simplify things and quote-unquote set the tone is infuriating. It really is. It's infuriating. The fact that you can't just simplify this offense, run the football, establish the run game. For the love of God, we're here in week 7 now, next week, and we have spent the last 6 weeks, last 2 months, talking about how this team can't establish a run game. I feel like it's a story that hasn't been talked about nearly enough. But you're on the same page as me, William. Thanks for the comment. Jayco on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Cute dog. 3rd and 12, and they couldn't get off the field. Our defense sucks. Ed Oliver, where you at? Tremaine Edmonds, where are you at? We got rid of Shaq Lawson for what? It's embarrassing to watch our defense. Shaq Lawson asked for a lot of money. Jordan Phillips asked for a lot of money. It's not that they let guys like that go, to me, at least to me. It's not like they let those guys – it's not that they let those guys go. It's that they didn't replace them outside of A.J. Epinesa, outside of, obviously Epinesa was Lawson's replacement, but really where has A.J. Epinesa been? Really where has Harrison Phillips been? Where, I'm not saying where, I'm talking where are some of the guys on this roster? And, I agree with you, Ed Oliver. I haven't heard his name once. I've heard Justin Zimmer's name more than I've heard Ed Oliver's name. And Justin Zimmer, practice squad guy, he gets activated tonight for this big game, and he made some nice plays. The fact that there's guys out there on this team doing that in comparison to guys that we expect to be doing that, I think that is a little bit of a problem. Ken says, I've seen these good starts before, only to go down mid-season. The one season that I remember the most was that 2008 season where the Bills started like 5-1 and finished 7-9. Now, that would be a dumpster fire. That would be an unmitigated disaster if the Buffalo Bills went down that road. I hope that they don't. But in the sense that I still believe in this team. I still believe that this team can be the ladder of going to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, and playing one of those top-tier AFC teams. Whether they win after that remains to be seen, but I'm just leaving it at that, saying that they can win a playoff game. That's what my expectations were and still are, but they're trending downward, and they're trending downward fast. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, would the Bills lose 40-something to 16, 26-17. Really, the score does not tell the full story of this Kansas City Chiefs-Buffalo Bills matchup in the sense that the Chiefs ran down our throats. Jordan Poyer missing tackles. Pat Mahomes says after the game, we weren't going to try to throw deep on them, and I don't know if many teams will try to throw deep on us. If you really look at the Bills' defense from the back end, they're pretty stout. Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White, Josh Norman. Secondary is pretty solid, but the defensive line, thin. Linebacker core, thin. Matt Milano out again this week. That is a devastating loss to this defense, and I'm not necessarily the biggest, Matt Milano fan. I don't think there's been moments where he's, had some missteps along the way, but in terms of what this Bills team has outside of Matt Milano, those guys just have not provided that next man up mentality that you need in this league. Dodson has not been that guy. So that's the next point. And Ken Zintel says the sky isn't falling, it fell. Man, that's a line right there. That is a line right there, to say the least. Don Handgardner says offense has been figured out. Defense is the worst in the league. Who could disagree with that when you allow a team to run for, I'll say it again, 245 yards? 245 yards. And you're Sean McDermott. You're saying to yourself, this is my defense? No, this is not my defense. Something happened along the way. Whether you want to say it was adjustments, whether you want to say that the Bills haven't adjusted enough, something along the way has happened to this team. They have cracked. There was a crack maybe in the ceiling, and the water is just pouring down on us. That's how I feel. And, the sky is falling. The sky isn't falling. It fell. I do want to say that we're 4-2. We had 4 quality wins to start the season, but these back-to-back losses were pitiful. And I know that the effort, at least in the first half of this Kansas City Chiefs game, was far better than that of the game against the Titans, but still wasn't good enough. Don, thanks for the support, buddy. Always a pleasure chatting with you. So that's how I see it. And last but not least, Mike William back on Facebook. He says, fire Frazier. I'm not ready to jump on the bandwagon of fire Frazier. Not yet. I think that there needs to be massive adjustments. And if they don't make those adjustments against the worst team in the National Football League, the New York Jets, if the New York Jets, I'll tell you this, Mike, if the New York Jets have any sort of success running the football with 37-year-old Frank Gore, with Green, pun intended, LaMichael Perine, we could rediscuss that. 1 week does change a lot in the National Football League, especially when you're playing up against one of the worst teams in recent NFL history in the New Jersey Jets. The dumpster fire. So there you have it. I mean, I think this was a real tough game to analyze for me, just due to the fact that I like to say what went right, what went wrong. And I will say this, Josh Allen, in terms of Allen and the mistakes and flare-ups that I've seen, the simplest throws these last 2 weeks have been the toughest for Josh Allen. And we saw that his rookie year. We saw that his sophomore season. Now we're starting to see that creep up again. There's a third down where he fires the ball to Cole Beasley, and it's far out in front of him. We saw it against Miami, threw an incomplete pass to Stephon Diggs over the middle, far out in front of him. Those things can happen. And they'll continue to happen because I don't think that this Buffalo Bills team is a finished product by any means. I don't think any Buffalo Bills fan could say that. But at the same time, we have to be better in order to get to where we want to be. We need to start to see that progression moving forward. If we don't see it, if we don't find it, it may never come. But I like to be optimistic as anybody in terms of moving forward. But at the same time, was one of the worst games I've watched in terms of these last 2 weeks. The back and forth, just hanging our heads. Sometimes I've questioned our effort, and I never thought I'd do that with a Sean McDermott team. But here we are. Here we are. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As I said from the top of the show, you can find this show on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast YouTube channel, Facebook, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts as well. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take, as well as on Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. I'm extremely active within every facet of my social media. We got a real big fight coming up this Saturday. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Justin Gaethje, probably the biggest title fight of the year, I would say. UFC lightweight championship on the line. Khabib, 28-0, the most dominant fighter in the world of mixed martial arts, takes on the Tasmanian Devil, as I like to call him, Justin Gaethje. The highlight, Justin Gaethje. Can Gaethje get it done? Will the O of Khabib Nurmagomedov go? We'll find out Saturday, but leading up to the fight, I'm going to be diving into it a lot deeper. Obviously, throughout the rest of this week, Wednesday, got a great guest coming on the show to talk about it with me as well. Obviously, this upcoming Bills game now, rolling into Week 7 against the pitiful New York Jets, the dumpster fire that is Adam Gase and the New York Jets. I love throwing shade on the Jets. They deserve it. They really do. The fans don't, but maybe the fans do. I don't know. What am I talking about? Maybe they do, just a little bit. At least a little longer. Keep Adam Gase. Keep Adam Gase. I enjoy it. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Take care, stay safe, and go Bills. Hopefully we see a better effort and a better result here in Week 7. Take care.